Hello, role-playing fans and fans of RPG Limit Break. In 1991, one of the best games of all time was released. It had love, it had betrayal, it had my favorite, optional bosses. And after 31 years, people might be kind of tired of playing such a game. However, due to ROM hacks, we have a randomizer for it, free enterprise. ROM hacks and randomizers had been a dream of the people, and with the realization of the dream came communities and tournaments, and we are in the midst of the Adamant Cup tournament today. I'm Mike34, and I'm joined here with Fantasia. How are you doing, Fantasia?
I believe that's the first time I've been called Fantasia, but I appreciate it. No, that was a fantastic intro, Mike. Just nice history and summary of one of the most iconic Final Fantasy and defining video games of the future, and of course, all of our favorite here. We have a fantastic race today between Soleras and Slippery here in the Adamant Cup. Both these runners are in what is kind of universally viewed as the most difficult group in this particular tournament. And this race is going to have significant implications for who will end up being the winner of the group. So stay tuned. Y'all paid for the entire seat. You're only going to need the edge.
Yeah, Soleras is 1-0, with Slippery being close behind at 101. We have Weebear 2-0. And a lot of great runners, as you said. There's Martin Broadcloak, Zilch. I mean, this is loaded. So the implications for this match are really high. If Soleras wins, he'll join Weebear at 2-0, and Slippery can be just a touch behind at 2-1 with the win. Every match is high stakes, so they're going to be trying their hardest today. And we have a Yang start.
I like a Yang start. The Punch Mage can be a little bit tricky early game, but as soon as he gets some levels, he ends up being absolutely fantastic. You know, just counting through complete Cave Magnus, Cure the Fever with the Sand Ruby, Liberate Barren Castle, trade away the Rat Tail, complete the Sealed Cave, destroy the Super Cannon, and defeat the King at the Land of Summoned Monsters. Here's what sticks out to me amongst these flag sets. Not a single one requires the Darkness Crystal, our access to the moon, which is very rare in these flag sets because there's so many objectives that could be up on the moon. But we have a plethora of key items that will be required. So when we go to the moon is going to be kind of the question, and it's not going to be an easy answer because there's no hard objectives that are there, but we might have to go up there because some of our other key items are locked up there anyway.
And we're off. We have Palom as a starting character who, as you said, the Punch Mage Yang isn't so powerful to start out, but get Palom one level and you have some tier 2 spells under his belt. And we also have a required key item to start with the Tower Key.
Yep, that's fantastic to see a key item just checking off the list. Slippery going to be doing some checking, likes to see what character checks, and does a little bit of light looting. We have a Tella available early on in Barren Castle. Tella is an interesting character. He can be fantastic early on, and he can be a great anchor, but otherwise he's a little bit on the weaker side. Meanwhile, Soleras gets our free key item over from Bedward, and we do see the Rat Tail, which, hey, guess what? That's another one of our required key items.
Yeah, we got a lot of required items right out the gate. None of which we can go to right now because we need a hook for that Rat Tail, and we need to be underground to use the Tower Key, but they're still good to have.
Absolutely. And we see, meanwhile, Soleras doing a little bit more looting over there in Troya Castle. Not the massive treasury that we've all come to know and love. That requires the Earth Crystal, but definitely pulled some decent items out of there as well. The Heroine Robe sticks out to me. Not necessarily usable right now, but I tell you what, that's worth at least a fair bit of money right out the gate.
You might see runners skipping these locations often in other tournaments, but in this tournament, the loot is T Wildish Max Tier 7. So they can pull some pretty good things. You can just be in what's normally considered a low quality loot situation and walk away with like a Heron Rover power shirt.
Absolutely. The only thing that's really locked out are the top tier items, which I think come down to like Crystal Sword, Excalibur, Avenger Sword, maybe. like I haven't memorized it, but I know two of those three accurate for sure.
That's right. Two of those three are accurate. Avengers Tier 7. Every once in a while, someone will spike one of those, like out of Evelyn. I've seen a few. And then the third Tier 8 is what this tournament is named after and what makes and breaks many of the races. If the runners venture down to Trap Chest and nab one of those adamant armors, which are amazing.
That's true. Adamant armors, we've been discussing some conversations that have been had throughout the tournament. Is the adamant armor the single most broken piece of gear in all of the Final Fantasy franchise? And that is an incredibly bold claim if you've played anything in the Final Fantasy franchise, but it's a solid contender. Plus 15 to all stats and reduced elemental damage on top of it all. It does so much for your character. And makes them virtually invincible. Not actually invincible, but close enough.
On Hobbs, we find two old nemesis, Kain and Valvalis, facing off. We love to see the Kain, especially early game. Gonna throw a Blizzard spear on him. And, Vitasia Slippery is a guy, he's after my own heart. I just saw him equip a Gaia hat on his Palom. I'm in the Gaia hat group. We're very fond of our hats.
Gaia hat is actually the only hat that Palom can equip that actually boosts his magic stats. The Wizard Helm does not boost Palom's primary magic stats. So if you want to achieve maximum nukage with Palom, that Gaia hat's your best option, and that seems really disappointing.
So we had a little bit of looting divergence, but here we converge on Hobbs with both characters at about the same time. So they kind of have the same idea in their heads when they want to start hitting their main objectives.
Absolutely. I like this check in the back of Mount Hobbs because this is, again, we're in T Wildish, but different areas have different weights based on what they're locked behind, things like that. So you can have a greater likelihood of getting some great gear in certain locations. This is a pretty high location. I saw a couple coffins. Looks like a diamond ring that's located here as well. Meanwhile, Soleras is opting like, no, that's a bit of a time investment to go that far. So I can understand both runners' point of view at this point in time. But they both made it through. They both have their Canes, and Kain is going to be doing some heavy lifting. I think you have the Flame Spear, which can cast fire too, by the way. But you also have the Blizzard Spear, which does a little bit more damage. So you have some elemental damage. Not only you got Palom some levels, so he's really activated at this point in time. We are well set up for this first part of the race up until we start getting into the underground.
Soleras was wasting no time with that Valvalis. Threw out a Grimoire and it rolled the best possible thing with a Blarg.
Yeah, I like this. Soleras is saying, I'm not wasting my time looting here in the Antlion Cave. There can be some good loot here, but again, we talked about that different weighting in T Wildish. The ish is what a lot of runners pay attention to. And it says, hey, if I can avoid it, I'll wait and do my looting until I have a greater statistical likelihood of having some good stuff. So Soleras has taken that tack up to this point in time. And okay, we have our second tail located here in Antlion Cave.
Have you spent hours upon hours in a little cave in the lunar subterranean fighting pink puffs trying to get that tail?
Not in the original release. No, I didn't know it existed.
I have. I never did find it, but now we can find it here in Antlion Cave, and we can turn it in should we find a hook for the adamant armor we've been talking about.
And we have both tails immediately available to us. Of course, I am a pessimist, and I think that the randomizer has a personal vendetta against me. So whenever I get both the tails sub 10 minutes, I presume I'm going to have the magma key, and the hook is going to be buried somewhere where we're not going to see it for a long time.
Well, Allie rolled this seed, so I'm sure we'll get that hook soon. In fact, it could be our underground access. It's either going to be the hook or the magma key, and we are getting close to finding out. There's only a couple more checks unless we have some overworld chains before we know.
All right, so Slippery being a little bit more thorough, clearing out all of Antlion Cave, rewarded with some better loot. You know, that ribbon is absolutely nothing to sneeze at, but Soleras is not slowed down by his lack of loot. And, this is going to be pretty straightforward, I think. All things said, using those blizzards to wonderful effect, now just has to hope that Calbrenna does not magically appear here.
Yeah, we like little dolls. We don't like the big doll. And we're not going to see
All
it.
dolls are terrifying.
In these, in this flag set, I see a lot of runners skipping Fabul, hoping to single dip because key items can be given with summons, and there's a free summon down in the underground if you have magma key. If you get the pan. If you have the pan and can get underground, you can go down the Sylph Cave, come back to Fabul, and essentially do 4 key item checks all at once. But both runners are going down to Fabul. No, it's a pretty quick check. No, they have the power and are rewarded with their underground access. Well, Slippery will be soon.
Absolutely, and it is the magma key, so buckle up. That hook can be located just about anywhere now, since our intended underground access is the magma key. So get ready. That's going to be in a bit of an exploratory event, knowing that we do have to trade away the rat tail, so we will eventually have to find that hook either way. Soleras was, in the meantime, do not miss the fact that he picked up a defense sword there in Fabul Castle. The defense sword is arguably the best weapon for Kain. It does not have the best stats necessarily, but it has the highest percent chance to hit. So when it all boils down, at the end of the day, when you take a Kain with similar equipment with a defense sword versus, say, a white lance, without any sort of racial bonuses, really the defense sword ends up doing more damage until, I think I read somewhere, it's like level 70 or so. So ultimately, that's going to be his superior weapon for a bit.
And he got a bandana too, I believe. So this Kain is going to be pretty online, pretty powerful. I'm curious to see. We see Soleras doing Baron now, getting the Tella. I wonder if we'll see a fade on Ordeals, or if we'll try to get some more spells for that Tella.
I will tell you, in my opinion, we are now at the point in the race where I do not believe Tella can benefit us a whole lot. That's me personally. Now, lots of runners love Tella and love the utility that he can bring, and will make a conscious effort to go and get him activated. Right now, if you have this particular party with the magma key, I think I'm going underground first thing. See if I can get some easy levels, find some sirens or some coffins, crack a few eggs until we get Palom online with Quake, and then start checking things like Dwarf Castle for our final character slot. Tella, to me, is not worth the time investment right now in this randomizer race.
I think we might be seeing Slippery go. He did peak the Tella, and now the routing here to Solara makes me think that he might be on his way to Ordeals next. Tella, to me, is I kind of think of him as the functional anchor. You can have him down around 8-9 agility, what his base is, and have him do things like zerk your people, blink, get a cure 4 out, even stone. Um, so if you want an anchor and you don't want it to be 4 agility Rydia doing nothing, you could do worse than Tella. But yeah, as a main character, he's not as vaunted as he has been in prior tournaments.
No, and that's not to say he's bad. If he's in your party and you're not necessarily finding anything better, yeah, sure, okay, I'll take him. It's not a bad pickup per se. The difference is, and this is really, I think, the key to being a free enterprise speedrunner. There's regular Mario speedrunners where all you do is have muscle memory and you beat the game and it goes super fast. With free enterprise rando, you have to make a judgment call, and a lot of that judgment call is knowing the time investment it's going to take to do something, and then also wondering, you know comparing that time investment to the value that you're going to get. There's a time cost associated with everything, and in this particular case, there's a pretty hefty time cost associated with not only grabbing that Tella out of the Baron Inn, but also activating that Tella up on Mount Ordeals. That's 3 bosses in a cutscene that you don't normally have to do with this party otherwise. So that's the questions you have to be able to ask yourself on the fly.
And to further complicate that decision point, should we find a Dark Knight Cecil for him to become a paladin, you have to go up ordeals as well. So you see a lot of runners opting to fade those 3 bosses and a cutscene until they absolutely need it and can get through it faster. Or you see a lot of runners routed in to their overworld progression check, seeing as there's 7 required objectives. These ones are all key items. They might think, hey, it's expensive to fade anything. I'm just going to route everything, and that's what we see Soleras doing now.
Yep, does look like Soleras is doing that. Slippery now going to open the Magma Key. We saw Soleras just open Magma Key spot and opted to avoid it.
Yeah, because he's going to route that in on his way to ordeals. And we have Ogo Pogo here, who's normally pretty scary, but at the first ordeal spot, I think he's going to get through just fine.
Yeah, not terribly difficult at this point in time. Not fantastic, though. Not someone... I don't think Ogo Pogo is ever in a spot where you want to see it. But he can be in much worse spots. I'm perfectly fine with him being here.
We saw Palom bluff wisely, as any spell you cast on Ogo, he'll counter with the Blaze. But if you bluff Palom, get his magic power up each time doing so, and then hit Ogo, that should finish the fight.
Absolutely. And Tella is, he does have some value early in the game. He is a wonderful exit mage, and he's a wonderful blink mage. Using that blink spell to dodge those heavy hitting physical attacks, and we are through that Ogopogo right now. Meanwhile, what decision are you making, Slippery?
Soleras went and did a safety save here. We're going to see a lot more safety saves in this tournament than in others. And we have the kick around the world is incoming. Why do you think he safety saved here?
I think the safety save is just knowing that Ogo Pogo is a time investment. Anytime you spend longer than a minute and a half on that particular boss fight, you want a safety save, because if there's something nasty around the corner that will one-shot you or make life difficult, you don't want to have to spend too much time reinventing the wheel. So that's my personal rule of thumb, is that if I spend more than a minute on that first boss fight, I will go and safety save just as a precaution. Slippery finding the Luca Cave, meanwhile, in the Fey March.
That's a lot of underground key points available to our runners. And one of those nasty things that can appear in this spot, and is likely somewhere in this seed, is a very angry wyvern. Um, there's a lot of power overwhelming on these flag sets. They have adamant armors available, T Wildish. Uh, we get Crystal Sword Cecils, who's gated, but they're out there. So to mix things up a little bit, we also have the Wyvern that doesn't do Witchburn, but he mega nukes every time. And if you don't have your agility or battle speed ready, he will wipe you out almost instantly in most spots.
We have a very doable guards fight in the king spot, and Slippery is going. I don't know if he can do this. He does have some hourglasses. We'll see if he can. Oh no, these soldiers are going to hit hard.
Let's see who they hit. Oh no, I think Tella was our user.
Yeah, Tella was our user here, so that's good. We're going to give that a second try. We do have to get the hourglasses off. Ideally, we'd like to get a coffin off on the officer, because the guards, if they do not have an officer, they will get the charmed status and just start attacking each other, because that's apparently what soldiers do. If you don't have a commander, they start attacking each other. I didn't know, how much history that the Final Fantasy programmers went into when programming that, but apparently it's true. All my West Point friends tell me so.
All right, so I think he's gonna wait 3 attacks and then see who's standing, and then pop. And let's see if this gets off in time. If they have actions queued, we might see a few more attacks. Yep. Okay, we just got the wording. He's safe now.
Oh, and also life glitching the officer, which is fantastic, because that's where the bulk of the experience is in this particular fight. Keep in mind, the life glitch is an interesting glitch in that the life potions, and when it goes off, it will restore health based on a percentage of your vitality stat. Enemies don't have a vitality stat, so their vitality stat is 0. So when you use a life potion on an enemy that is dying and then dead, it will restore back to health with 0 health, because there's 0 vitality, and die again, effectively giving you twice the experience for that particular fight.
Did you see what happened on Ordeals?
Apparently a darkness crystal, because that's what Soleras is getting right now. Okay.
He's raising that whale immediately. We have 2 gated characters that you can't find, you can't start with, and you can't find without getting a gated key item, and that's Fusaya and Cecil. And one of those could be on top of the moon right now, as well as another gated shop, and all our, non-existent moon objectives, but they could have key items, and possibly hairdryer. So there's a lot of things Soleras can be doing up here, and he's hitting the shop first.
Telha, meanwhile, is using recall and casts Toad on the soldiers, who are stopped and not punching each other. And now when they punch each other, they're not going to do a whole lot of damage. So grats on Slippery for getting through it. This is a bit of a time sink, though. Hourglasses found up here by Soleras. I got to imagine if he wasn't already planning on taking that hairdryer chest, now is a really fantastic time to do it.
Yeah, hairdryers have a lot of XP and pretty good chances of dropping high-end loot.
Meanwhile, Quake Kid is online when we got the king down. Just a drain spear, but I'll hang on to that experience. Thank you very, very much. Plus, it was an objective we had to do. Oh.
We have Edward, who normally is an instant yeet, I would say. His name's Spoon here, and the reason why is the Spoon flag is on. So if you do have that Spoon, you can have a very angry Edward endgame punching Zeramus for 5,000-ish damage.
Meanwhile, we did see Slippery do a little bit of shopping, picked up looks like some charm, like a charm rod maybe, but also a thunderclaw, which thunderclaw is really interesting in that uh, Yang can of course make his punches do elemental damage, and there's a surprising number of things that are weak to thunder damage and lightning damage overall when it comes to bosses, including all the trap chests in Lower Babel, for example. Even though they have very high magic resist, those particular searchers are weak to thunder. So if you have a punch mage, punch him with the thunderclaw, he will more than likely one-shot them to get you some great chances at some tier 8 loot for very little time investment.
Yeah, like bosses like Odin, who can completely gate you if you don't have the damage output, can almost become trivialized if you have that Thunderclaw on. And enough strength like Slippery just got with that Zeus Gauntlet find.
Meanwhile, Soleras is doing the hair dryers. Gotta respect it. Slippery still checking the underground. I love these checks personally.
I like the way that Soleras is running this too. So he's throwing Stone out to finish the fight quickly, but if that fails, he has Palom single targeting a hair dryer, and if Stone fails, he'll likely life glitch, get more XP, and at some point he wants the fight to be finished with a Stone cast. Didn't get the life glitch off, but is still burning through these pretty fast, and actually gonna fire 3 them. Can't always depend on Tella.
I think he started worrying about the hourglasses running out, because realistically, they don't last forever. And that is one of the more difficult things to take into consideration. You know, you can't take forever on these, otherwise the stop will end and you'll be stuck.
We see Tell in the middle slot. He gets an accuracy bonus in that position, and he doesn't have a lot of MP. He's out now. He has 90 total. Weak cast is 25 MP, which we just saw in one of the hair dryers. Getting knocked down or trying to preserve himself as an anchor. We don't have a lot of int boosting gear to help with the success rates also. I don't see this section of Dwarf Castle that often.
No, we don't, but there's quite a few treasure chests that are back here as well. And that was an item that was so fast, Soleras.
I missed it.
So did I. I feel really bad. If anyone in chat happened to catch what Soleras had from that trap chest, it looked like, I mean, we knew he was going to get something. He did not immediately equip it though, so I do not know what it is. I hope it was value.
Yeah, I was so surprised by where we were in Dwarf. Oh, we're even doing the chests upstairs. Slippery's giving us a lot of neat loot locations today.
Yeah, these are checks that you don't normally see. You know, different runners have different philosophies when it comes to looting. It's true that a single piece of loot can absolutely change the trajectory of an entire race. A single adamant armor in a one-off location makes all the difference. The problem therein being is knowing when to stop. A lot of runners, you know, try to set a loot limit for themselves so you aren't just looting nonstop. There's a lot of different treasure locations, and you could be looting for a long time if you really wanted to.
Unfortunately, with Tella, he doesn't have to walk uphill both ways because he can just exit out. So if you have him, you can kind of get out of some places. And we see some more convergence with some Dark Imps in Baron Castle. Those are going to be pretty easy for Soleras, who bought those hourglasses.
True, but I think we still might have an hourglass on Slippery's side as well. So this is going to be great. More to the point, you can get some more life glitches off because this is a pretty decent experience location as well.
You're correct. I did see an hourglass hanging out in his inventory. So both the runners are going to get through this pretty well and hopefully get some extra XP with some life glitches. Although we have a Quake already on Palom, so we might just opt for high speed as well.
Yep, and Tella goes down. We are committed to a Tella anchor at this point in time with Palom, Kane, and Yang. So we'll see what this other character is. I mean, if it's a Fu, you absolutely take it. If it's a Cecil, you absolutely take him.
Evidently, yeah. 27:20 is nap time because both Hellas went down right on the dot.
All right, we have a Baigen fight afterwards, and Rydia joins us. I'm tempted to take that Rydia. Honestly, I'm tempted.
Me too. Should I not have Tella? Tella's my preferred anchor because he's pretty functional, like I was mentioning earlier, but Rydia makes best anchor as far as the lowest agility that a character starts with. And if you have some good summons, she's pretty helpful as well. And also, you know, she's a cool character.
I think she's the second best white mage in the game. Honestly, give her an Asura. Yeah, she can heal you through Zeramus. I'm good with that.
All right, both runners through Baigen pretty quickly. Quake kind of trivializes his 3 attacks. Very quick attacks in this spot, but if he's getting quaked, you won't see too many of them.
Our restreamer Ali is saying that's a real hot take there. It's like, hey, I've won plenty of races with Rydia as my dedicated healer going into Zeramus. I've done it. I'm sure other folks have done it too.
Shoutouts to Life One.
Meanwhile, both characters finishing up, and we're going to get our key item from Dwarf Castle almost simultaneously. And it's just a ninja hat.
We got some more agility, but it's functionally a womp.
This is a very, very close race. Slippery has done more underground checks. Remember, Slippery has defeated the king at the Town of Monsters, which we know is a relatively free fight. Soleras, meanwhile, has been up on the moon via Mount Ordeals, where the Darkness Crystal is located. So even though they're in the same locations, there's a few spots that each other has not checked. And we'll see how big of a impact that has later down the line.
Yeah, this is really tight. Slippery has a little bit more direction, knowing that full underground is open, and what's in the Fey March looks like might be going up to the moon to check the character now, and I would anticipate Soleras to either do Fey March or maybe try Self Cave at this point. So we might see some crossing paths.
Looks like Slippery might be doing a character swap, actually. All of your characters that you dismiss are located up here in the tower. So, yeah, we're doing a character swap. We have that Leviathan for Rydia. Yes, I love it, Slippery.
He was listening to you. Yep, there we go. We have Rydia, and I don't think she's just going to anchor having learned the Leviathan.
Oh, she's going to anchor. It's just going to be an anchor that we'll have to manage a little bit later.
She does get some agility pretty fast. And one thing I see runners doing is putting a few levels on her. Not that she can still anchor, but she learns warp so fast that she can get you out of Lucas still.
Meanwhile, Soleras is continuing. I like this. You have to come up here into the tower anyway to complete, to destroy the super cannon. So I like going ahead and committing to these objectives while you're here and say, hey, I got Quake Kid online. I have some decent levels. Let's go ahead and knock all of these out. Looks like Slippery has the same mindset. right now. Um, really, this is so. If you compare the two, the difference that the two have run is Soleras has done ordeals and then gone to the moon and got some levels from Hairdryer. Slippery immediately went underground, got his levels from defeating King and Queen Eblin, but has completely faded ordeals up to this point in time. It's too close to call. The edge right now, I would give to Slippery because he has focused on the objectives. Other than powering up your Tella, there's no real reason to go up to Mount Ordeals right now, and he has yeeted his Tella out of his party already. So I like Slippery's routing here a little bit better, but this is still anybody's race right now.
Did we mislead the audience? I remember telling people that this was a randomizer, and I'm seeing Dr. Luge here on SOT. In the tower.
I mean, there's still a 1 in 39-ish chance or so that a boss can be at its principal location. I mean, that's fine.
So we're talking about opportunity cost earlier, as we see Slippery doing some trap chest up here that should go down pretty fast. Right now, the runners, they could do some freebies right now, especially Soleras not having done Fey March. Could do some freebies in hopes of maybe getting a Sand Ruby package, Earth Crystal, something that opens up more characters to get a final party, or they could route as efficiently as they can and do the tower, which is going to give you a lot of XP. If you wanted to get your main party online, you kind of want to route your XP checks after you get the party members. I like that the runners, what they're doing, just getting through the checks as soon as possible, figuring out the XP later. As we saw Balneb Z explode. Ouch.
Yeah, that hurt a little bit. Worse is that poison. The difficult thing about the poison is that it also prevents your melee attackers from going into the berserk state. And if you're Keen and Yang, the best thing for you to do is be in berserk state and just go to town on Dr. Luge. Especially Yang, because he's got that Thunderclaw, and strangely, Dr. Luge is weak against Thunder.
We saw Slippery throw on that Thunderclaw, which is going to be helpful against Luge, as you mentioned, and was also helpful against that trap chest. Took it down really fast, got Crystal, but the wrong Crystal. Got Crystal Gauntlets, which we're going to sell, and we have some blue robes.
Oh, Possumorpheus with the info. You can use the power staff to bonk your poisoned character, and they will still berserk then. Fine, okay, you're right. And we have the Water Hag in the cannon spot. This is the worst spot for Water Hag ever.
Yeah, it's like a 600 or so HP spot. Goes by really fast unless accompanied by a bunch of dialogue.
So both runners are now here on Water Hag, and it is just the worst.
I guess we could have Comedy Tour here. That would be pretty bad also, but yeah, not ideal. Hopefully we get rewarded with an objective. Maybe that hook.
Did we happen to see what was located up on top of the tower when we completed the Dr. Luge fight?
If by we you mean you and myself, I think we both missed it, but we have wonderful chat that might help us out with that item.
Black Ice, our wonderful tracker, pointing out it was a protect ring at the top.
Womp womp. And we won.
We have our wonderful restreamer on top of it, folks. Not to worry.
And what our runners are doing that we can't see right now are working their way down the tower. When they get to the base, the airship is going to pick everyone up. Some nameless voice who is supposed to be Golbez will start destroying the bridge, and they will get, hopefully, a key item.
Yes, but it wasn't Golbez this time around. Who was in the back of Dwarf Castle? Because that was kind of a quick fight. It was Baigen. So Baigen's
Yes.
going to be teasing us this time.
Baigen's usually, spying for the fake King of Baron, and now instead is kind of taking the strings and is ruling everything under Zeramus. Okay, and Soleras through Tower Key is back up and going to check his Fey March freebie. I'm not sure what he got yet, but we'll keep our eyes open. And
we'll figure it out.
Should be up.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get to see that on Slippery's side once he leaves the tower, because he did the Tower Key first on his way up.
Looks like our tracker is on it and did a bit of an investigation himself. We got an adamant rock from that, which is not necessarily a required item, but at this point we just want key items right now. We are very key item light for this stage in the race. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total for Soleras and 5 only for Slippery. Looks like Soleras is about to get 7th, but still.
Yeah, so why there are no objectives on the moon? We have Poison Walk. Avert your eyes on the right screen if you don't like flashy things. But we're probably going to have to go to the moon to get some of our key items.
Well, I mean, there's still some possibilities here. I mean, we can do Queen Evelyn, which is the Magus sisters. It's not impossible. I mean, it's not fantastic at that particular location, but it's also not horrible. Throw a Mute Knife on Kane, and he can do quite a bit of work on those, or a Rune Axe. If we happen to have a Rune Axe, that would be even better.
Quake is pretty good too because it hits all of them, but I don't think right now where our power levels are that I'm too excited to face them at the moment. I think if you're going to pick 1 or 2 fades per run, this might be a good option.
Well, I mean, there's also Luca Cave, the sealed cave at this point in time, which we're in what, the high 20s, low 30s with decent gear. That might be a solid check there as well.
Yeah, I like routing in Luca here. Get as much as you can done underground at once, and then other than the pan, maybe not return. We do see Slippery going after that second freebie now.
Yeah, that's an important second freebie that we've completely forgotten about. I respect doing all the other checks because you're hoping that you end up getting a pan so you can kind of take care of all of this at once.
The thing about going to Luca right now is there's a high chance you're going to be committed because we've had so many zonks so far. And not just committed, but not just getting a key item, but a key item that leads to a chain that you kind of have to follow. Like, we still have the Baron key, we still have the Earth key, we still have music, and the pan. So there's a lot of stuff that could be there that that require us to fight our way out.
So Soleras is also opening a couple opening a couple chests in the Sylph Cave, but there's some fantastic loot that is located in this cave. The problem is that there's also a lot of trapped treasure chests. Making quick work of these ghosts relative, though, using the mute bell, which of course, if all they do is cast fire, well, that makes it kind of easy to get through that script.
And we get an Excal tier 8 if Cecil is in the seed. We won't have to wait to complete Forge to get him super powered.
At this point in time, though, I mean, who am I kidding? Yes, you take Cecil. You absolutely take Cecil, because Cecil, Excal Cecil, if you haven't done any sort of grind yet, you make it quick. And oh my, that was a twin harp located at our first check from Sheila, which is another one of our objectives.
And we get music, which is one of my favorite parts of Free Enterprise. Now, everything's randomized in Free Enterprise, but one of the very unique, cool things that are randomized is when Edward plays a twin harp, instead of the standard song, we get one of over 400 songs. And since it's required, nobody can fade it. Not forever.
Well, I love this, because what could possibly be setting us up right now is, we're doing just one or two objectives. With Cave Magnus, that means we are 3 key items away from go mode. Slippery is 4. Slippery will eventually, unless everything else is on the Earth, including the pass, we will eventually need to go get that Darkness Crystal. But between Cave Magnus, if we can keep getting key items like the Baron Key, and the Baron Key leads into, say, the Sand Ruby and the Hook, hey, we're good to go.
Slippery is continuing on the fun routing course by looting the whole forest. And we're going to have convergence here again at Cave Magnus.
More convergence. This has been a very close race up to this point in time. Soleras did get through that fight much faster than Slippery down at the king spot. We said Slippery did the king fight while Soleras did all of Mount Ordeals and going up to the moon to check the character and doing the hairdryer spot. So when you think about it, Soleras having done that check so much faster, really, even though in a straight line race it appears Slippery's ahead, he's still got a lot of stuff to do. So Soleras is right on his tail right now, and I would say has a bit of an advantage right now.
The runners are happy to see Magnus from Sheila, because they just ran down, took all that damage underground, and now have a very quick, easy route to wiping their party out as fast as possible so that they don't get a long cutscene here. Also, we saw a very interesting divergence in the cave. Slippery took the save, and a lot of time you don't see that save, but we have Wyvern here, and you don't want to sit through... Well, actually, we're going to get to music, so I'm going to finish that thought in a moment.
So that's also kind of an interesting fight. King and Queen Upland, which is a free fight if you just kind of sit and let it wait out. But we had the damage to get through it on Slippery's side. And hey, we have another 2 for freebie turn in.
That pan there, if you're trying to fade uh, your freebie to get pan, having Sheila give you a chain into pan is not going to work out for you. It's a little bit of comedy there. As I was saying, Slippery took the save uh, in case, King and Queen Eblin were there, in case you need to reset out and steal your heart against the tragedy. Otherwise, maybe it was in case Wyvern was there, because then you lose all your time and have to run back down and get the cutscene again.
And it does look like at least Slippery is going to be immediately going there. And it looks like Soleras will be as well. The motto of this tournament has always been do your objectives, then do your freebies. Slippery resets out of that trap chest that we saw Soleras take on a little bit ago. So now they are neck and neck running into Self Cave.
People might have wondered why we saw Quake and then do 1 damage, and then Leviathan doing better damage. In Cave Magnus, there's high magic defense, and it's really hard to break through. You pretty much have to use physical attacks most of the time, unless you have enough power, which Levy did, and it made a difference. Slippery got through that, I feel like, a bit faster than waiting through all the Fire 1s and Fire 2s.
All right, so that's a spoon. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Soleras is at the 10 key item spot right now. So is opting to, looks like he's going to go check what's available to him, or what's available down in the sealed cave. Meanwhile, Slippery is continuing to follow the chain for Sheila 2.
Yeah, this was billed as a good race in a good bracket, and it's not failing to disappoint. These runners are very close, as you can see by the objectives and key items. We do have a few wild cards, like that X-Cal sitting in Soleras' pocket.
And it's the package. So we have 10 key items available for Slippery as well. They're both at 10 key items. Soleras, I think, with the superior key item in the Darkness Crystal, able to go up to the moon. Slippery has completely faded Mount Ordeals up to this point in time. So going to be doing a quick package check because, hey, if this is a Cecil or a Foo,
Looks like we got a little bit of freezing going on. But Soleras is going to continue to work down that sealed cave.
Cecil just too strong. He crashed the entire seed.
Another X factor is with Divergence, where are we going to find the hook The sooner it's found, the bigger impact it's going to have on this race, as it's going to give a runner's advantage. Cecil also gives, especially Soleras, a big advantage if we can find him through like a package, Earth Crystal, Sand Ruby, Baron Key.
I think it's all going to come down to who finds the hook first. Whoever ends up finding that will be able to turn in the rat tail and the pink tail to get an adamant armor at the same time. Even if it's an objective up on the moon, I think the first one to be able to turn that in will ultimately end up prevailing in this race because these two are very close right now.
Yeah, and with as few key items as there are left to find, as few objectives, only a few, um, it could come down to moon check philosophy. So if one person goes bottom up versus top down, if those keys are located on one path more, it's going to give a big advantage in a race this tight.
Thank you. Big shout out to Possum Morpheus, who is filling us in on what's going on in the background. Fusoya is at the package, and Slippery is committing to sitting through that for Fusoya. Um, I like it 30 minutes ago. I don't know if I like it in an hour in, but I understand why he's doing it.
Yeah, Fu is super powerful, but that's also a super long check. You have to sit through the fight in Mist. Then you have to go up to Kaipo, take a very lengthy stay at the inn, fight a battle there, and then walk away with your Fu. To your earlier point, there's a time cost associated with it, and is Fu going to give you that advantage? That's a close call here because this team isn't super overpowered, and Fu is. And we're about to go to the moon here once Slippery rolls through ordeals. And although he could possibly finish off Fey March first too.
He could finish off Fey March. I mean, he could also similarly go to Sealed Cave, which, as we've learned, and look like he is in Sealed Cave right now. It does look like the Sand Ruby is located in the Sealed Cave, which is again a very, very nice item and required at this point in time for us to be able to cure the fever with the Sand Ruby. That's another character check we might. Hey, if Cecil's here.
And shout outs to Alicel for getting this back up. Sounds like we're having a very rare and complicated tech issue, and she is steamrolling through it multiple times. Good job. And to your point, also that objective led to another objective. We're only 2 key items away, and the answer is likely on the moon. But where on the moon? And how do the runners progress down there? We see Slippery with a quick check on his key items.
Yep. So Slippery saying, "Yep, let's go ahead and do this. We know that'll eventually turn in to getting the Sand Ruby. We still have one objective left on the blue planet, though, which is that Asura fight. I still think we have the levels for it, honestly, if we wanted to try it. Because I think if we get a spicy hook from that particular location, and the hook can lead into the Baron Castle Key plus an adamant armor, I think it's worth a check.
And all the Yangs are yeeted at this point. We do have Rosa now. On these flags, I'm often seeing Zerkers rolling, and if you've held on to Yang this long and don't have a lot of Zerkers, I've seen him kept sometimes, but I don't know that we've seen Bacchus yet either. So we might have potentially a reflect set up for Z later. We'll see.
I think I've seen Bacchus available, but the seed is very clearly kind of favoring. The only 2 melee we've seen are Yang and Kane. We've got nothing but mages up to this point in time, other than those two. I mean, and Edward, who, I mean, I guess we do have the spoon now, so he could be worth something.
So on the blue planet, it looks like both runners are going to commit to the queen spot fade. And I expect we'll be going to the moon soon. And does Soleras take Fu?
Looks like he's sticking around. He's going through the cutscene. So both runners end up committing to Fu. It's really, well, I don't know, because Soleras has a true white mage now in Rosa, but with Fu, he might yeet his Rosa and say, now I don't have to commit to levels.
That is probably what I would do, but I'm still blown away by how close this is. They're kind of crossing paths, both runners, but very close. It's like they're crossing paths simultaneously. It's like synchronized free enterprise.
Yep, keep in mind, Slippery has not yet done Mount Ordeals, which is where the Darkness Crystal is. And Slippery is very quickly running out of locations to do. He has gambled that nothing is in Mount Ordeals up to this point in time. And I gotta say, it's one of the mantras that I live and die for. If you're going to make a gamble in a randomizer race, commit to the gamble. If it ends up that you've gambled away, not going to Mount Ordeals for this long, stick to it. If it's one of two locations, make it your last location. I think in this case, Slippery might end up doing the Queen before going up on Mount Ordeals, just because that's the gamble he's made up to this point in time. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we've been talking about the moon and the importance up there as we're watching a very scary Leviathan fight. It's so scary. But the Queen might make the difference here, because if there's value there, and Slippery, who just very closely and happily with Fu takes care of that Leviathan, if he goes there and there's value, one of the two key items, that's going to be a huge deal for him, because he'll be able to potentially just find the last key item on the moon and not have to do the whole moon, whereas Soleras will do a full moon clear. On the flip side, if there's a Womp that's at Queen, that's time that Soleras didn't have to spend going down a Fey March and fighting that kind of hard fight. So we're about to get a big tell of what's remaining in the seed.
And Soleras yeeted his Palom? Okay.
Maybe he wants to keep some because of the Excal, might want to keep those Berserker strats on the table.
I get it, and I'm all aboard for that one. Meanwhile, Slippery is doing exactly what I kind of anticipated Slippery doing, going down to check the Queen spot. Soleras, meanwhile, who has the Darkness Crystal, looks like is going to be doing some more party adjusting. And then I got to imagine he's going to the moon.
Yep, looks like with Fu, maybe swapping anchors. And this is a big deal for the seed. What happens next? Very possible that this is going to make the difference between the runners, because if this is a full Womp, Slippery still has to go to Ordeals, and Soleras is going to be quite a bit ahead. But if it's one of our remaining objectives, then advantage Slippery. So let's see what happens.
All right, right, so Soleras, again, there's no required checks up here. So he can kind of do whatever routing he wants up on the moon as he sees fit. We are looking for the Baron Castle key and the hook.
It looks like we're probably going to start in the ribbon room. We faded value, now we're fading Mura, which makes a lot of sense because there's 2 key items for one fight there. You have the White Spear altar right by that, and the only accessible access to the Mazamune altar. So you got 4 key item possibilities within 3 fights, kind of closely located to each other.
We got slippery casting Meteo. We got a Swagio going on over here.
Ouch, and the Quack Kid takes a lot of damage, but Kane playing the role of chemist here brings him back.
Yeah, I think the problem is that this is a very high magic spot, and these casters do quite a bit of damage. Throwing some life potions, just trying to create more targets, I think, at this point.
Was it high magic? Fu will show them how.
And 2 of them go down, which is the problem. And Remedy brings them right back. Meteo is such a long cast time. Yes, it does quad 9s, but it takes so long to get a cast off.
But that Fu seems to be in pretty good shape. You're just gonna... and you saw how fast the Remedy was. It's because Fu is our anchor at 20, maybe 23 agility, depending on if we have a ninja hat on or something. So we don't have an RA1 setup. And because of that, they're just instantly... It's a high-speed spot. These sisters, once you beat the front and back ones, the middle sister will bring them back very quickly. Oh, and the virus.
And the virus, yeah.
And I saw Soleras look like he reset it out of maybe Ribbon Room, but I didn't see what was there.
Yeah, there was a Golbez fight there.
Oh, interesting. So that's 2 key items that he's electing to fade for now. And that makes this check in Fey March so much more important because we're having to expend even more time. We really need, for Slippery's sake here, for this to have value as we move our battle speed to 3.
Soleras, I think, has this fight mostly under control. This is not what I would call a particularly difficult fight for the Dark Elf here. It's relatively low magic for this particular spot and relatively low health. We just have to survive and get through it at this point.
And I really don't think Dark Elf signed up to fight a berserked blinked pig today.
Sir Oinks a lot. And true story, the second half of Dark Elf doesn't have the boss bit, so we can use the weak spell against him. Or the stop spell if we want to.
We also have an Anchor Shift. Ooh, an Assassin Dagger, we didn't want that. That was a womp. We have an Anchor Shift on Slippery's side. We have Rydia with that Leviathan we learned earlier, and she's able to contribute a little bit, and also has less agility, helping our RA factor for some of the other characters.
Meanwhile, Soleras is doing something interesting. He has used size on his casters while Kane is piggied. Here's the thing, you can only have 1 status ailment on your character at a given time. So all of this setup that Golbez is getting ready to do, where he tries to paralyze you, if you already have a status effect like Piggy or Size on, it won't actually take effect. Oh no!
Oh, it's the hook from the Mega Sisters. This is everything just flipped right back to Slippery, but he lost so much time that I mean it could still be close. He has to do ordeals. Soleras is gonna find the likely gonna find the Baron key somewhere on the moon. Now, if the Rat Tail has the Baron key, then Slippery will be smiling. But that's pretty amazing right there.
So I still think it's advantage Slippery because right now Soleras, say Soleras finds the Baron key this fight with Golbez right now. He will still be full clearing the rest of the moon because, again, same thing. Soleras has abandoned the Queen location, so he will make that the last location he checks. We know it's the most important one right at the moment. When Slippery goes up to the moon, he'll be able to just do the checks until he finds the Baron key and go, even if this rat tail isn't the Baron key.
And the Earth key is still out there somewhere too.
Oh yeah,
He would likely do Zod, especially being incentivized to grab Cecil, although it's getting pretty late. And Slippery is going to have an adamant armor on, so I mean that was a big swing right there, and it's kind of lower percentage too, with that not being a K main check in the Fey March.
Yep. Soleras working through his Golbez fight now is going to be nuking, is going to be trying to get everyone up, has reflex rolling. It's not a gimme fight, but I think he has it well under control at this point.
The location of the Baron key is very important now because if it is on the opposite end of the moon that Slippery checks, then he'll spend more time on the moon, and Soleras did have a decent a lead. So if the more checks Slippery has to check to get the Baron key, the tighter this race will be. So we'll be looking for the location of that Baron.
Okay, just samurai arrows from the rat tail turn in, but he will also have an adamant armor. And with all the different checks that we've done, I don't know about you, Mike, but I'm not necessarily comfortable with our equipment as it's been given to us. This adamant can be huge for Slippery right now.
Yeah, it's going to make his moon clear that much faster. And even though he has the advantage right now, I'm not close to calling it either way. There's a lot to figure out, and we did find the Earth Crystal.
Oh.
I think since Soleras is going to be full clearing anyway, I think what Soleras needs right now is for Baron to be in value and for Slippery to take the same route.
I think so. I think that would benefit Soleras if they both happen to last location it up on the moon. That would be the most beneficial to Soleras right now. But at this point in time, I'm working off the assumption that Slippery is going to have an easier time with every single fight that Soleras is going through. So even though he's kind of ahead in that straight line race, what are you doing, Slippery? Oh, okay, he's checking over here to Cave Eblin, maybe doing one last character check, hoping for that Cecil, checking the shop maybe.
Which is good for Soleras because it's buying him time. Maybe Slippery finds something here to make up some of the time, but any time right now that Soleras can buy from Slippery, not just running directly to Upzot and to wherever the Baron key is a boon for him. And we just did a little bit of shopping.
Oh yeah, he bought sirens and coffins, so I got to imagine there's a grind coming a little bit. He wants to feel safe doing whatever grind that he is going to choose to do.
That's pretty smart too, because he only needs one key item left, and doesn't have the levels maybe that he feels comfortable fighting Z with. So if he does a grind first, he can reset out of any fight except that Earth Crystal on the moon. Like, you don't need XP on the moon from any of those checks to save your fight, so he can reset out.
Yeah, Slippery, understanding what's at stake, is not taking the safety save. He's like, let's just blow through this. And this is where doing this fight earlier might have been beneficial, because Ogopogo here is a little rude when you come late, because he does a percentage-based attack.
And then he gets nuked.
Okay, well, I guess nuke conquers all.
But I wonder how Slippery's feeling right now. Like, took a wipe to Maga Sisters. Last location, the Darkness Crystal. But probably is thinking it's unlikely that his opponent did the Maga Sisters and has so much value there. There's a lot of pros and cons going on in his mind likely right now.
Well, there's the Legend Sword on the Masamune altar. So Soleras has done 3 of the 6 checks up here on the moon.
And not resetting out of it. Wants the XP, it looks like. And maybe the shop even.
Yep, now he'll be warping away. I think even with this advantage, Soleras is not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. But if Slippery starts checking top down, like if he checks cave value first, then it will be a much, much tighter race, because he's doing the checks that Soleras has not. Again, it could also be behind Earth Crystal, which would be terrifying.
And we are seeing, we haven't seen that Baron Key yet on this section of the moon, which I think is the most likely for Slippery to take. That's advantage Soleras, because that's more checks Slippery's going to be running through. And Soleras only has 3 fights up here before he runs down, does Baron, does Zot likely, and then figures out where his objectives are. Of course, Rat Tail could still have all the answers, and then that's a moot point.
Yeah, Xenocat makes a good point. Baron Key behind Earth Crystal is best case scenario for Soleras, because, again, if you're going to gamble something, you full gamble it. Soleras has full gambled away the Queen of Eblan spot. So I think from this point forward, whatever's there, he's going to last location. We know it's the hook. We know he's eventually going to get there. It's about where that Baron Key is and how far out of the way Slippery has to go to getting to it. Because if it's Slippery's last item, and if it's somewhere along an easy route, then that's bad news for Soleras. If it's deep, if you end up having to full clear the moon to get the Earth Crystal to bury it, that will save Soleras a ton of time at that point in time, and ultimately is going to be good news for him. So Rando's going to rando, folks. This is hold on to your butts. This is going to be a fantastic finish to this race.
And we could see some unconventional play too. Soleras might think, Zot is a long check. What if I just save Scum, fly down with all this power, take out Maga Sisters real quick, and surprise everybody? There's a lot of possibility and a lot of ways this can go. It's very exciting.
And it looks like Slippery is wanting to do an egg grind to get some levels on his characters before he commits to the moon. I don't hate it. We certainly have the power to get that done.
And that'll get him fully ready for Z. Whereas since Soleras is doing a full moon clear, he's getting all the XP as he goes through, and it's kind of interesting as it's kind of equalizing in time still, because even though Slippery's uh, most likely going to find his objectives first, uh, he's still having to spend this time leveling. And we haven't got a rat tail check yet, have we?
Yes, we did. It was just
Oh, we did.
samurai arrows. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So that is that is huge for Soleras.
All right. So no Baron Key yet for Soleras. He has Murasame and Cave Bahamut left.
Does Slippery have a curse string?
I think they both do. But we haven't seen a whole lot of use for it.
And yeah, we gotta do, since we're doing reflex strats, we need to get a little bit more levels for Iridia. It takes her a while to get to Nuke.
Takes her a long while. Meanwhile, these are all levels that you have to take into consideration. Can we do these and maybe get some levels up on the moon with these boss fights? Because you can, depending on how long it takes you through the whole thing, it might behoove you to just go up there and get it and learn Nuke as you're killing bosses. And if you happen to find it early, then finish your grind, just because you want to minimize the amount of over leveling that you have to do.
We see some arrow equipment on Rosa and a Zerk hitting a plague weakness. And Iridia going down, preserving that perfect for agility anchor. And Slippery's going up to the moon. Let's see which way he goes. Now, if Baron Key is behind Earth Crystal, he goes up, sees the Earth Crystal. Another important decision point it will be if he chases immediately.
That'll be interesting. It, leaving Moon early is kind of an interesting take. If you don't have the pass, it can be a little bit risky. Just a Stardust Rod. Whew.
And that seemed a little dicey. We were at 0 with only 2 Zerkers. Maybe we were okay, but I've died plenty of times with 2 Zerkers at 0.
All right, so Slippery is now on the moon, has opted to at least do this character check. I don't know if he will continue on into the moon. I mean, it's Spoonward. I don't think I think you're committed to the levels at this point.
Yeah, especially after that level grind, to get all the reflex strats going, everybody's at Nuke or near it. Okay, so what is in Value? If Value has the Baron Key, that could be huge for Soleras too. If Slippery chooses to chase the Earth Crystal.
Well, Slippery's going into the moon. Did not do Cave Value. That was really Slippery's only chance of catching up at this point in time. We know that this is this is. Oh god, this is a horrible Gauntlet location.
We know what Blue Robe this is, and this is a bunch of fights, and at least I suppose a bunch of levels, if you're looking for a bright side.
I mean, we're about done with levels. on Soleras' side. He is fairly well committed to what is happening here.
I like Adamant up top in that slot, able to get out the quick weaks. And those hourglasses are coming in very handy now too. Did you see if Slippery hit the shot?
Slippery did not hit the shop. He kind of is YOLOing at this point, just getting down as quick as he can down here. Will be in a much better level position. However, keep in mind, we got some rude fights that are down here. Golbez in particular, which is our only known possible progression with the Earth Crystal. So everything else is, it's not even like a pass. It's not beneficial at all.
We're likely to see a. Oh, that's something else we haven't talked about. If Soleras is doing extra objectives because he doesn't find, he doesn't have the hook yet, he might run across that pass in a location Slippery doesn't and buys himself a few minutes. There are so many factors in play right now, and this is so close that it's very hype and fascinating.
Well, here's the interesting thing, because we know Soleras will likely last location the hook, which we know will be the last thing that he has to do. So we know that's on Asura. So if he goes down back to the Earth, we can bank on him doing Earth Crystal. That Earth Crystal, we know almost certainly it has to lead to the Baron Key. That Baron Key then has a coin flip of, when you liberate Baron Castle, it could be the pass, it could be something else. We don't know. And if the pass is not on at Liberate Baron Castle, it is absolutely on the Baron Castle Basement Throne, which I think would be a shorter than walking all your way down to the end. But at that point in time, that you last location the item, so you're going to go ahead and check both.
So a decision point is coming up here. Slippery, because of the adamant armor, because of I think maybe a crystal ring too. He feels pretty comfortable taking on this Golbez, whereas a lot of the time you'd fade it and check it later. It's going to get the Earth Crystal. Does he chase it? We're about to find out how much that matters.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I think if he does chase it, it's the right play at this point in time. Maybe. We don't know. The Baron Key could very well be up here in Cave Bahamut. Oh, we don't know quite yet. I am kind of presuming that nothing is going to be here in Cave Bahamut when describing that other scenario, but
we're very, very close to finding out. Both if he chases and if the Baron Key is here in value.
So does learn Bahamut and will be staying up here on the moon
for at least one or two more checks. So yeah, this keeps the drama alive, because Soleras is going to have to, he's going to chase everything on the overworld. We're going to be doing the Earth Crystal. Oh, there's the Baron Key.
There's the Baron Key.
Oh, advantage, no. I think, just swung back to Soleras. Because here's the scenario we laid out earlier. Slippery is going to have to now probably full clear the moon. And at this point, chasing Earth actually hurts, because we know there's no value there now that we're in no mode. But Soleras is going to go and chase Earth and do all of Baron. So it's a matter of how fast can Slippery get through the moon. And it's feeling kind of nail bitery right now.
Absolutely. And let's not forget both. I mean, Soleras is set up to with a really kind of hybrid strat party where Kane will do some swings. His Rydia is going to play anchor. Rosa is might Zerk, might heal. We don't exactly know. It's not what anyone would call an optimum zero misfight party. Slippery's party is not much better, to be truthful. It's a much more magic focused party. We can reliably count on these reflex strats going through. But even as we get to the nail biter of an end where who's going to get the crystal first, we can't. We also have to take into consideration, someone. Neither of these runners have a perfectly set up easy zero misfight at this point in time.
Yeah, and there's still some decision. I mean, we know Soleras is going to have the pass because he's going to do 28 out of 28. Going to gain that 4 minutes or so back. Also, very likely, with 3 character checks coming up, going to see the Cecil probably have to yeet your Excal Cecil at this point, right?
No, I don't think anyone's taking Excal Cecil right now. I think, well, I mean, you might. We have our levels already. I think we've committed to what we're going to be doing. Rude Wyvern, by the way.
Yeah, we got that. We got that Starveil off right quick, and we Fu lives through it. We kind of had a rough fight with the second half of Dark Elf over there on Slippery's side. That Hourglass advantage working with Soleras because the Hourglass would stop him, or maybe like a weak cast, but we kind of had a protracted fight there. And yeah, every bit either runner can do right now to get through things as fast as possible is going to come up huge given how close we are. We got some sushi in the basement.
Yep, not overly difficult at this point in time. Well, no, this is the basement. This is the.
We're up top.
Primary throne, yeah.
It's always some aquatic creature pretending to be the king here.
And slam down the door, and who's our character? Hey, Edge, where have you been this whole seed?
Yeah, we like Zerkers, but we don't like them so much an hour 30 and about 25 checks in.
All right, so here comes the question. I mean, we did liberate Baron Castle. Soleras is still looking for that hook. We know that the hook is still on Earth, still down in that Asura fight, which is going to be relatively straightforward. But there's still the Baron basement to check, and there's still Earth Crystal to check. And there's Pass. Oh, we know Slippery has to do that. So they're both going to have the pass when they come back.
So many little swings that keep going in one runner's favor to the other. And I still can't. I still don't know who's going to win. It's so close. We know
it's coming down to the end.
We know we got a 4-minute check in Zot or so for Soleras, and then having to run all the way back down Fey March and fight this boss here. Whereas Slippery has to go do the Crystal Sword altar and then Cave Value, and then also come back and do Baron. So I mean, that's pretty close, I think, in time.
So if you think about it just in terms of bosses, so Soleras is doing a boss right now, right as Slippery is about to do Crystal Sword Altar. So um, almost a wash there, although slight advantage. And then Slippery will still have to do. We'll have to do Mursame. We'll have to do the long grind that is the alt gauntlet at Bahamut, which let's not underestimate the length of how much time it takes for an alt gauntlet on the moon. Even when you're overpowered, it takes time. And then he has to go through and do 2 bosses, relatively easy, but in Barren Castle.
That's a great point, Vatasia. I mean, and he won't have the hourglasses unless he hits the shop, which is unlikely at this point, to help deal with that gauntlet faster.
Right, and then Soleras, at most, so he's done with this particular boss fight. At the most, he'll have 2 boss fights that are going to be very straightforward in Tower of Zod. He will have a short cutscene, and then he will have a 3rd boss that might cause him some difficulties because he is kind of a magic-heavy fighter here. Oh,
and here we go. This is what we talked about earlier. Maybe he foregoes the long Zot check, thinks, hey, I can go check this quicker, and doesn't commit to fading his fates and working out in his favor. Oh, I was wondering if we could see something cheeky like this, and it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, this is huge right here. Yeah, all those bosses that we were just talking about, forget about it. This is the last item that he needs.
Oh, I cannot wait to ask Soleras about this play. This is really, really interesting. I see chat saying this race having more switchbacks than a mountain trail. It's indeed a slippery slope.
This is why we tune in to randomized races, because things can go back and forth all the time in these randomizer races. It's what we love about the community. It's what we love about this type of category race. And if you haven't joined us already, please feel free to head on over to the Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Discord. We have runners of all experience levels all over the place. We are in the middle of our Adamant Cup League right at the moment, but there's still beginner level events that are going on all the time. There's community races that are going on all the time. We have beginners clubs that can help walk you through getting everything set up and running these races. So if this looks like something that you would want to at least check out and try, head on over to our Discord, and we would love to have you there. It is, truth be told, one of the most welcoming communities that exists on the internet, and I do not say that lightly.
Yeah, it's a wonderful group of people. The admin team is also amazing, and you saw how well Ali's done keeping this up, given some technical issues. We got Black Ice on the background, and wonderful commentators like Vitasia, who's not Fantasia.
That's the first time I've ever been called that, and I've been doing commentary for quite a while. So thank you for giving me a new experience today, Mike.
My pleasure. Soleras getting that hook, and as I think about it, I mean, this was such a good play, because at this point, Soleras has already faded the Earth Crystal for quite a while now too. So he's really faded 2 things and is picking between those and thinking, you know what, Mega Sisters at that location is not fun. Maybe my opponent faded that, and maybe that's the better item, the better check to prioritize, and the payoff is huge.
So Soleras knows what he has to do. Is it now in go mode? Will be turning in both his rat tail and, you know what, you're here. Let's go ahead and get your pink tail. Let's get that free adamant armor because it's overpowered.
And
And
are
we
ready,
have
Oakley, come on.
Yeah, 17 to 17. Now, for those of you who have never watched a free enterprise race before, keep in mind we have a couple little twists that we've turned in. So, normally in the original game, you have the pass, which takes you to a very secret area with, in the back room at Troya with dancers that is probably too suggestive for a video game that was released and anyway, we didn't want to do that here. We wanted the pass to have at least a little bit of meaning. So the pass is actually our backdoor to Zeromus. We can skip that entire 3.5 minute walk down into the depths of the moon, and we have an instant teleporter that will get us there. That's the first trick that we have. The second one, you're seeing these flags that show up, and they have Z question mark on them. We in the randomizer community love to randomize things. We really, really do. The problem is Zeromus is not a boss that we can put really in any other location, not just because he has weird health pools and he has weird mechanics, and seeing Zeromus immediately in the Antlion Cave with the Big Bang would be really bad. But we wanted to randomize Zeromus still somehow. So when we use the crystal and he transforms into his new form, he becomes one of several hundred different sprites that we have on file. Shout out to Scala Kitty in the community. So the question becomes, whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
And there's ancillary questions, is there a butt?
Is there a butt? Is the butt cute? These are all questions that the community loves to ask. It is, but that's fine. The question really boils down to whose butt are we going to kick? That's the most important thing. And keep in mind, again, this is not going to be a free fight by any stretch of the imagination. We have some kind of wonky setups between these two characters.
It's a tree.
Woodmus from Kirby. I do not believe we have a butt to kick.
Arguably, though, you could say it has a hat.
It does have a hat. Meanwhile, we're going with some kind of hybrid strats. Kane is going to sit back and take some swings. Otherwise, he is going to allow himself to have magic reflected off of him. Now, reflected magic kind of has some interesting properties in Final Fantasy IV. They were present in the original game, and they continue to be present now. Really, the tricks are that they don't any reflected magic does not trigger any counter scripts that are in any bosses. And Zeromus has a lot of counter scripts. If you cast any magic directly on him, he will counter with a nuke. If you cast any summons on him, he will counter with something equally horrible, I believe. Some sort of nuke, I believe. He has a counter script that will refill his health points halfway through the fight. So there's lots of different nasty things that we can do to avoid that. And using reflected magic will prevent that HP refill and effectively make it so that Zeromus only has half health.
Yeah, 62,000 HP is much better than, or 61, one of the two, is much better than twice that. And Kane will stop fighting soon and become a chemist. Of course, sometimes that wall will wear off, and you could see a nuke or a white on Kane's face, and then you have betrayed the betrayer. And there we have it, with a flash and a bang, and the tree is going down.
Yes, splash, boom, bang. He is down. That was very quick. GG's to Soleras, who does win with an official time of 1:41:32. Get your GG's in chat, and maybe we can get Soleras in for a quick chat to talk about this crazy seed, some of the decisions that happened, and it does sound like we're now joined by the man himself, Soleras. GG's.
Hi, thanks. My god, what did I just do?
Let me tell you, Soleras, that was one of the best matches I've seen in this tournament. It was back and forth the entire time. How are you feeling in various points of that seed?
Well, I'm glad it was a great show. I felt uncomfortable for most of that, to be honest. Starting at the very beginning where you get Yang and Palom, and I'm like, well, am I gonna loot or am I gonna... No, I guess I'll just go. And then, the way I chose to route, I figured I had to do so much of the seed. I was just going to do the things that were physically on the way, and so many of those things just had nothing. The moon had absolutely nothing when I went there early. It had hourglasses, but that didn't end up mattering until much later. I was thinking maybe I could use those for trap chests, and I was like, I'll try the hair dryers. This speaks to still things to learn. I wasn't sure if you could stone those hair dryers. I was like, well, I'll try it twice. If not, I guess I'll kill them the slow and painful way, which is what I ended up doing. Got an apple for my troubles and was like, yeah, that's how the seed's gonna go. Okay, all right. And everything after that was just, I don't know. This seed happened. I experienced it. I had fun. I know that I did things that were probably fun to watch because I felt challenged, and was kind of happy how I got through some of the fights I did, but this is one I'll be really interested to go back and see, because I think there's going to be a lot of room for improvement on this particular kind of seed.
Yeah, this will be definitely a good watch going over again. I was curious, you had the Earth Crystal. You go down to value and you see the gauntlet. You have a bunch of hourglasses left. Were you tempted to fade that at all?
When I saw the Alt Gauntlet, I was like, well, basically everything I've checked has failed me so far. I guess I'm just going to keep going. Plus, I had the pile of hourglasses, so I was like, well, I know I can kill Zeromus with this party. And actually, this will get me to white to make it easier, so sure, I'll just hourglass and kill them. Between hourglass and weak, I mean, it wasn't that bad. Obviously, it's a major time sink, but I was like, so is Zod, and I guess I'll just pick this, and I picked Zod as my fade, and I got lucky.
I was going to ask, what was the deciding factor? Because you got Baron, and it came down between Zod and Asura. And I mean, we knew as runners, because Slippery had done Asura prior to ever showing up on the moon. So we knew what the right call was. What prompted you to decide to fade the only other useful thing you got on the moon to go check Asura?
At that point, I had already committed to 2 fades. I'd committed to the Ashura fade, and I'd committed to not checking that Earth Crystal immediately, and I was like, well, I just think Magus Sisters will be a little faster. So, just went that way.
Well, it turns out to have been a really big play. We were wondering how that would play out, because that's a long check, and you would have 28 out of 28 the seed had that happen.
Yeah, and, you know, that just would have been par for the course for these flags, and if it had happened, you know, you just keep going. That really was just a coin flip. I mean, I could have just flipped a coin, and either choice was pretty correct in that moment. I just didn't want to do the Magus Sisters. Like, I had Quake, and maybe if I had struggled through it, but we've seen a lot of these seeds play out where, just in free enterprise in general, like a lot of tournament flag sets where you get like a nasty Fey March and somebody decides to kind of slog through one of them, and it's like you're really committing to that having something, and I decided not to do that, and it ended up biting me this time, but I think in other seeds that would be a good choice to make. So I mean, I stand by that choice, but yeah. Everything I did after that, starting at like grabbing package Fu and keeping Rosa, is just like, I don't know about all that, but it worked, I guess.
Yeah, he helped you get through the moon pretty well.
He did.
Now you're 2-0 in a very challenging group. There's so many good runners in here, and to start out 2-0 in that group, how are you feeling?
The rest of this group is terrifying. I got Zilch tomorrow, and then it just gets probably harder from there. I mean, between Zilch, Woobear, and Martin, none of those are free. Not that this fight was free either. I'm just gonna play my game and hope for the best. I'm kind of in this mindset of I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna have fun. I'm in a busy point in my life right now, like I'm job hunting and I'm admitting, and I've been practicing, but I've said, you know what, for this tournament, I'm just gonna play and have fun with it. I did these things this seed that were a bit challenging and that was like fun to do, and I'm just gonna keep that mindset going forward. So win or lose, it'll be a good time, and I look forward to those matches very much.
Well, that mindset is really working out good for you so far, and I look forward to more exciting um, races. Do you have any more questions for Soleras, Vitasia?
No, just GG's on the run. I hope you go back and watch this one. It was a surprisingly back and forth race. Slippery is getting to his Zeromus fight right now. It came down to some coin flip decisions, I think, from both of you. This was very, very close, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, I'll definitely look back. Looking forward to the comms, and thank you so much, Alicel, for putting on the restream, and Black Ice for tracking. It is always appreciated, and of course, the two of you for doing comms. And with that, I'll head on out of here. Thanks so much.
Great race, and GG's again, Soleras.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, and Slippery's starting his fight with Z now. This has also been a great race on his part, especially I think beating the Maga sisters at that point was a tough fight. Got through it. Soleras had some great plays, and now we see our tree over here. We're gonna be lumberjacks.
Uh, Trying to get some nukes off. Oh, that's a very high level Rydia right there. Able to cast. I mean, everyone's casting nukes. All the nukes are flying.
Yeah, whereas we saw hybrid strats before, this is pure reflex strat. So we got nukes going out. We might see some whites. Nuke is an instant cast as opposed to some delay on white. So we'll see what all we have going out. We only need a few rounds for this thing to be over.
Yep, we're doing the same reflex strats that we mentioned before, trying not to trigger that counter script for Zeromus with that HP refill so that we can just clear effectively the first half of his health and call it good. Because as we all know, Super Nintendo programming back in the early 90s was a fantastic piece of art.
I confess, the only Kirby game I've ever played is the Game Boy pinball game.
Does Smash Brothers count?
I'm sure it should, although I haven't really played that either.
Slippery has this well under control at this point. Does look like his Rydia is, might be taking a nap here before too long, but otherwise is set up very, very well.
Yeah, we're gonna see that flash and bang soon on his side as well.
And there it goes. almost 10 minutes to the second after Soleras finishes. In fact, 1 hour, 51 minutes, 37 seconds. GG's to Slippery. Slippery does move on to 1 and 2 in a very tough group. We'll see if Slippery is available for a quick chat here.
Tough it is. Is my volume okay?
There we go. There you are.
GG Slippery. That was a well-run race. It was very back and forth. There were lead change after lead change, advantage change after advantage change. A pretty good play on your opponent's part saved some time at the end, which kind of sealed the deal. How'd you feel about the seed?
All right. Up until I got Darkness Crystal at like the last possible location, and then it's like, oh, now I have a lot of checks where my one item for go mode is, so it's just a lot of coin flips determining the race.
Yeah, we saw you were looking towards last locationing that, and it was looking pretty grim, and then you pulled a hook from that Mega Sister fight in the Queen spot. Did take a wipe there, but probably had to be thinking your opponent probably faded it. How were you feeling at that point?
Pretty good. I think there were a lot of tools, especially with that Fu available for dealing with the Magus Sisters fight fairly effectively between Fu and the Quake Kid and Rydia with a load of summons. So I kind of figured my opponent would be looking there at some point as well, or at least have it available. And also I think there were some pretty decent bows and mute arrows available if you felt like exploiting weaknesses on that. Although, of course, the magic attack power there is a little bit scarier than I anticipated, so...
Yeah, definitely a dangerous spot. With this, you go to 1 and 2, but the good news is your 2 losses have come to the 2 undefeated people, and there's a play-in spot for the 2nd and 3rd racers. There's lots of time, even in this challenging group, to move on. How are you feeling about the tournament?
I'm pretty nervous. I mean, this is a really scary group. A lot of the times I made it past the group stage in previous tournaments. It was kind of on the backs of somewhat less scary groups, but this tournament in particular, like, I'm not sure there's any that I'm confident I could 100% confident I could get out of. That said, I'll just keep trying to play hard and see what happens. Maybe bust a player or two's a bracketologist's bracket or two along the way, hopefully.
Indeed. Early on in that seed, you guys routed a lot of things very similarly. Made a lot of similar decisions. You didn't do the full Watery Pass or Eblin loot, but you went to a lot of cool locations we didn't get to see that often. Has that been pretty standard for you on these flags?
Yeah, it is. Like I'll usually go for Evelyn Castle. I'll usually wait on Evelyn Castle until I feel like I can take a trap chest and I'm like either low on levels or low on loot. Or if I have like a Cecil available and it's like, well, the chance at a crystal sword is just too good to pass up. But none of that was the case this seed, so I decided to skip it in favor of other things. And I also found vampires in my very first shop, which gave me like all the early game power I really needed.
Vitasia, do you have any questions for Slippery?
No, I guess my main question is, your feelings throughout the race. It was a little bit heartbreaking there early on, knowing what we knew where the darkness crystal was, but then turn around and you pull that hook. Walk me through kind of your emotions, down, up, whatever they may be between those two particular locations.
Yeah, I think if I recall the race correctly, it was like an hour ago. I think I was just down to those two locations looking for the darkness crystal and the hook, and I was figuring, okay, like if I get the hook at one spot, I at least that opens up rat tail check. I had the pink tail as well, which would have scored me adamant. Um, so yeah, I was kind of hoping like that would have led to a chain that led to the darkness crystal, but it wasn't to be. And of course, ordeals is where darkness was, and like even with still a stupidly overleveled party, um, it's like it's three boss fights you have to slog through, and then there's no way to just exit out either. So it's that's a thing where like if I don't have Cecil or I don't really need Telos spells, I'll fade ordeals.
Well, GG's to you again. It was a great race for us to watch. I'm sure everybody watching had a great time seeing that seesaw battle. Is there anything you wanted to add, Slippery?
No, just shout outs to all of you folks on the Restream team for putting this all together, and I'm looking forward to watching the race back and seeing what I can learn from the commentary.
Well, you will hear that I think give you a big hearty thank you for putting on that Gaia hat as a Gaia hat member. GG's again.
Rock on. Thanks. See you, everybody.
And I want to further that shout out to our team. We had Black Ice on the back end there, and our hero Alicel for keeping us going through some challenges. And thank you, Vatasia, for experiencing this amazing run with me.
Well, you as well, Mike 34. It was a fantastic race. Happy to be a part of it. And again, if you liked what you saw from either of our runners or anyone behind the scenes, go ahead and give us a follow here on Twitch. Easiest way to support everyone. In the meantime, we do have another Adamant Cup race that's going on over at Free Enterprise 2, one of our channels. So we are going to set up a raid over there here directly. Um, Remember, please, just as a courtesy, do not reveal the results of this race in that chat. We try to keep it spoiler free in all the different channels that we are restreaming on. But otherwise, have a great rest of the evening, and we'll see you at the next race.